BC. It includes lack of jobs, wages too low, taxes too high, and the big one, of course, is housing, the cost of living and affordability. Let's discuss with my guest now, Gavin Dew, Conservative MLA in Kelowna Mission. Gavin is the economic development critic in the BC legislature. Gavin, thanks a lot for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Okay, thanks a lot. So this is a pretty shocking report here. These are big numbers. Now, of course, there are people going in the other direction, right? There are people moving to BC, but it's a net loss. We're losing people, right? There's more people leaving that are coming here, correct?
Yeah, we're losing people, and we're losing some of our best and brightest young people in particular because they can't get opportunities here and they can't see a future for themselves here.
Okay, what are you hearing from people out there when people talk to you about the problems with especially with the cost of living here? What are they telling you?
At a macro level, the big challenges seem to be housing and affordability, it's taxes and red tape, it's jobs, and it's the collapse of our basic services like healthcare that is driving people to look elsewhere. I think one of the biggest issues is that we have declining consumer confidence. We have rock bottom business confidence in the country right here in BC. That is suppressing hiring, which is leaving young people without opportunities, which is in turn driving them to leave the province. It's a vicious cycle, the likes of which we haven't seen since the end days of the NDP 90s.
Yeah, there was a very high numbers of people leaving the province in the 90s, too. That's interesting comparator. And when we take a look at where people are saying they're leaving, I mean, we all know about how expensive it is to live in the city of Vancouver. But one of the interesting things about this report is it also mentions cities like Nanaimo, Prince George, Kelowna, where you are. People who love BC, they want to stay here, but they're saying, man, it's just too expensive here, right? Like, what are the big ones? What are the big cost drivers that people are telling you about? Is housing number one?
Housing is obviously crucial, but we've seen inflationary effects on grocery prices. We're seeing the cost of everything going up. We've got obviously higher and higher taxes that are leaving less and less money in people's wallets to go and get the goods and services that they want. And that has just absolutely shattered consumer confidence and consumer discretionary spending. So you imagine you're trying to open a business, you're thinking about starting a storefront business, a restaurant, a store. Well, you're dealing with chaos on the streets, a high probability of vandalism, a high probability of theft. You actually just can't run a business. So you look at that high school student who's trying to get started in their career, trying to get their first job, and they can't. We have the lowest youth unemployment since 1998, Mike. That is desperate. And the signal that sends to the market is that there is no opportunity, there is no hope here, and as a result, we are losing young people. And what's worst about it is we're losing the kinds of young people who are our best and our brightest, our innovators, our entrepreneurs, the kinds of people that could be and should be starting the businesses that will create the next generation of jobs. Those people are going to succeed, but they're going to do it somewhere else. And that means we lose out on those opportunities, both directly and indirectly. We are in a terrible, vicious cycle. We are in a downward spiral, and we have to turn it around.
Speaking of Conservative MLA, Gavin Dew, about 70,000 people packing up and leaving British Columbia, this new report from the BC Business Council. So the Business Council in this report saying, also laying the blame at the feet of the government to a great degree, saying the province has to be more welcoming to business and economic development to make this a place more attractive, a place to invest and give people good paying jobs. Let's listen to Braden McMillan again here from the Business Council. Let's listen.
When other jurisdictions like Alberta or Washington are rolling out the red carpet, we can't be rolling out the red tape.
Okay, so he says we got to cut red tape. We got to make this a more business-friendly province. Let's listen to Attorney General Nikki Sharma responding to this report. Let's listen.
I can't speak to the individual decisions of British Columbians, but what I can say is that we're focused as a government on making sure that we tackle those issues that are facing British Columbians are facing, including cost of living.
Okay. Kind of bugs me to hear her say she can't speak to the individual reasons. Like, why can't she speak to it? You know, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this report, and people are outlining their reasons: housing, affordability, 36%, top concern; taxes and regulations, 28%; jobs and wages, 23%. Why can't she talk about this? This is what people are saying. Go ahead, Gavin.
She should be able to talk about it because she's been part of being directly responsible for it as a senior cabinet minister in this government. We have sat across from these people in the legislature, and the level of ignorance and ambivalence that they demonstrate toward even a basic understanding of how small business works and how conditions for investment and job growth are created in a province is absolutely mind-blowing.
Really? Give me an example. Give me an example.
We spent hours and hours debating things like Bill 4, which was the Consumer Protection Act, where they brought in a bill that nobody's against consumer protection. Of course, we want to make sure that consumers are protected. We flagged issues that had come from the small business community. 6 industry associations wrote a letter to the government asking them to slow down and evaluate the unintended consequences of their legislation, which was going to impose costs on small business and make it harder for people to create and grow small companies in British Columbia. And what they told those people was to pound sand. This government is not listening to small business. They're not listening to anyone who has a perspective around how to actually create conditions for job growth. And they have grown the size of the public sector by 41%. 41% more jobs in the public sector in British Columbia since this NDP government took over, while the private sector has been hemorrhaging. You look at the numbers, we lost 16,000 jobs in BC last month, and that was private sector jobs going down, that was full-time jobs going down, that was unemployed people staying unemployed for longer, that is youth unemployment hitting record lows, and these people don't know what's happening? BS. They know exactly what's happening. They just don't seem to have any will to actually listen to small business, work with small business, and make the changes necessary to create conditions where our economy can thrive again.
Well, what
All
would
they
you do?
is spend.
What would you do if the Conservatives had won the election? You almost did in the recent election. What would the Conservatives be doing right now?
We have to start with an understanding that politics is downstream from culture. And right now we have a culture in British Columbia, which is a culture of no confidence. We have a culture of getting to no instead of getting to yes. We have a culture of not celebrating success. And we have a culture under this NDP government that believes government is the solution to everything. We cannot just keep on growing the government. We cannot have this permission economy where every decision has to be in the hands of the government, the NDP, and their well-connected insiders and lobbyists. We have to actually free the economy to grow. We have to actually send a signal that this is a place where you can succeed again and where success will be celebrated and enterprise will be encouraged. It starts at a cultural level. And most importantly, we have to stop this BS where David Eby spends all of his time trying to pick fights with the President of the United States of America, who doesn't give a crap about David Eby, because that's better for David Eby than actually engaging with and addressing the domestic issues. They spend all their time. Go ahead.
Okay, Gavin, I hear you talking about cutting taxes and red tape. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that real quickly, because yesterday the finance minister unveiled a budget deficit of $7.3 billion and then wanted people to give her a pat in the back because it was not as big as they originally said, but it's still a record high deficit. So you're talking about cutting spending. Like, what would you, if you cut spending, you cut taxes, you cut government revenue, what public services would you cut?
I don't think we have to take it from that perspective, Mike. We're delivering services in an extraordinarily inefficient way. It's not just about, austerity. It's about smart policy. It's about smart ways of delivering services. It's about the realization that there is this whole new toolkit in terms of AI and other ways to deliver services more efficiently. They're being implemented in the private sector, but not in government.
Okay. We're following it all very closely. Gavin, thanks for coming on with your thoughts.
Thank you so much.
You bet, man. Thank you. Gavin Dew, Conservative MLA for Kelowna Mission. Gavin is the official opposition critic for economic development. Okay, phone me on this now. These numbers are big. 70,000 people left BC. We're losing people to net migration, so there's more people leaving BC than arriving from other provinces. Phone me on this one now.